So first of all, I have to say that I am so impressed by everybody over here. The organizers for the nimbleness, Susan and Alex for keeping the crowd going, but most of all, to all of you. On an evening that was totally rained out, to be able to impromptu, let your hair down, prostitute yourself for 5,000 bucks. and have such a ball that I thought I could never get you out of the stage. That is truly inspirational. I can tell you this more than anything I'm going to say speaks to something special about what we have at DBS. I really think on this occasion, for just what you've been able to pull together the team this evening, all of us owe ourselves a big, big round of applause. Okay, I'm supposed to have a clicker. Can I have a clicker? This is next, and we'll be back.
Dashboard! Dashboard! Dashboard!
Where should I stand? Should I stand here? Okay, I can stand here. Oh, I have a comfort screen over here as well. Okay. All right. Can you see?
Yep. Oh, now we can see.
What happened? Ah. Okay, I thought I would try and share a couple of thoughts and messages. And if the slides don't move without my clicking, that would be helpful. But I thought I would start with a story. And like all good stories, it starts right here, once upon a time. So once upon a time, there was a bank which got created to help with the development of a nation. They call it an improbable nation. It was also an improbable bank. And the really amazing thing is this bank made a name for itself very early on. It was a bold bank. It was an innovative bank. It was a bank that defined the rules. But then somewhere along the way, as the years went by, the bank kind of lost its way. And so it went through a period where there was erosion of market share. There was an erosion of credibility. It had several very embarrassing moments. And frankly, it ran to a position where there was a complete collapse in its stock price. In 2010, several of you were part of the team that got together and decided that we would try to imbue in this bank a new sense of energy, a new sense of mission, a new possibility, and a new beginning. And as part of that new beginning, we did this. Some of you around, I showed it to you in Phuket. We created this masthead, the Asian Financial Times. On it, we put the date of July 2015, 5 years out. And on that masthead, we said, DBS voted Asian Bank of Choice in 5 years. We were actually a little timid. Because what we really wanted to say is we would be the best bank in Asia in 5 years. But I guess we lacked a little bit of confidence. And so we chickened out a bit and said, okay, we'll be the Asian Bank of Choice in 5 years. And to substantiate that, we set up some targets for ourselves. We would be voted the Asian Bank of Choice. We would top customer surveys as the best in service. We would take awards for innovation and technology. We would be recognized as a thought leader. You know what? By the time we got together in Phuket, just 3 years ago, we had really outdone ourselves. In 2014, we were not only continuously recognized as the safest bank, but by many, many magazines as the best bank in Asia. In 2014, our stock price hit $20. In 2014, we really felt that we had achieved a lot of what we set ourselves out to do. That's why we went to Phuket. And when we went to Phuket, those of you who were there will remember, I said with a tremendous degree of pride, check, 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 check. I tell you what, one of the things that enabled us to do is to get a little bit more confident. we had a little bit more faith in ourselves. And so we decided to be a little bit bolder. We set a new goal and a somewhat more audacious goal. And this time, we weren't timid about saying what we wanted to be. So we put a new date in there. You remember this one? Yeah. New York Times, and we put the date again 5 years, March 2020. But this time, we said DBS recognized as the best bank in the world. And the little red circle on the left, we actually put together and gave ourselves a manifesto. So again, 3 years on, I have to tell you, who would have imagined? If somebody had told me in 2015 that in 3 short years, we will have global recognition, I wouldn't have believed it. If somebody had told me in 2015 that in 3 short years, we would be a global benchmark, I wouldn't have believed it. If somebody had told me that when the CEO of BBVA was questioned and said, who are the best digital banks in the world, he took only 3 names, himself, ING, and DBS, I wouldn't have believed it. And the truth is, it is really hard to believe. For a bank of our nature to come from being a Singapore bank, get to be recognized as a regional bank, and suddenly to hit the global stage, that's just an amazing journey. And I know many of you don't believe it today. In the evening, after we had the panel session, and I talked about the fact that I really thought we were up there with the best, Amit came to me with a Forrester sheet that said, you know what, it talks about JP Morgan and Citi and talks about some other bank and they've done patents and they've filed research. Are you sure we're really up there? So I can understand that. So many of us think that maybe we're blowing smoke. But I have to tell you that on an integrated basis, on a comprehensive basis, I really think we are right up there. There will be areas where other banks are better than us. There will be products that other banks have done which are better than ours. That has to be. But I do believe that what we have done in the last 3 years is just truly extraordinary. And so once again for that, I really think everybody over here should look deep into themselves with a tremendous degree of pride and achievement. And again, give yourselves a huge round of applause. In the process, I have to say, this is the manifesto I had circled on the left of that page. Defining what banking means in the digital age with insights and UX, delivering a hassle-free customer experience, attaining high customer satisfaction, the courage to innovate, creating the happiest workforce. And I have to say, we've made substantial progress against this manifesto. Not entirely, but substantially. And yet, nevertheless, in the course of the last few months, I said this when I opened and kicked off the conference, as I've been thinking about where we are in our journey, I'm still worried and bothered by a but. And it's an important but. And the but is this, that when we set ourselves that manifesto, we also said this. What sets DBS apart from both its bank and non-bank competitors is this unique ability to do banking in a joyful, unbanked manner. So have we really made enough progress against that goal? It's not entirely clear to me that we are making progress in this goal of being a joyful, unbanked manner. And we also said this, that we would be the Apple of banking. We step back and think, are we already or anywhere near being the Apple of banking? I have to tell you, the answer is probably not. We have a long way to go before we are the Apple of banking and the Apple of our industry. So I guess the question is this, despite all we've done and where we've come, we still have ways to go. And the question we have to ask ourselves is this, what does it take to redefine the category? What does it take to do what Apple did? Just completely redefine the category. In Phuket, I shared this clip with you. It's a clip of when Steve Jobs comes back to Apple after having been kicked out the first time. And he walks into this room and he has a few people, particularly future head of design, Jonathan Ives. I want you to see that clip again because it got a really important message which I think we need to remind ourselves. If we can get the video to move, that would be nice. Let's try again.
Who did these? I did so. Who are you? Jonathan Ive. I'm Director of Industrial Design. Why are you still here?
It's 11 a.m. on a Monday.
No. Why are you still here at Apple? This isn't the company I built. There's no taste, no style, no design. So unless they're shackling you here, why do you stay? Also, I guess I would say there are still those of us that believe in what Apple stood for. What you stood for. What do you think I stood for? I think you believe that the computer or the Walkman or whatever it may be should be a natural extension of the individual. And it's that mission, that devotion to quality and ideals and heart. That's what keeps us here. That we might do it once more.
Mission and that devotion to something that's deep in the heart, to quality and a set of ideals. That's what made Apple Apple. We've made a lot of progress with the digital transformation. But you know what? Digital is not joyful. Joyful is more than digital. If you really think about this, I said today that we had a head start. We had a head start of almost 2-3 years on banks around the world. Everybody is being digital. This is from JP Morgan's annual results briefing last week. And if you read the results briefing last week, this is what the CFO said. Digital everything, payments everywhere. Does it remind you of something? Does it remind you of, we said it 2 years ago, that we will completely embrace digital and we will dominate payments. So it took them 2 years to catch on. But the reality is people will catch on. People will catch on like we learned from big tech, they will learn. And so driving and transforming and being totally digital is not going to get us to what we want to be, the Apple of banking, to redefining the category. Joy is something which comes from within. I said when I started, these are things about the soul. It is about what our agenda and intention is. It is about how we feel about ourselves and about our role in the world. It's far more deeply embedded than just a set of digital transformations. It finally links back to the sense of purpose. I have another clip I want you to see. It's a clip from Zuckerberg. And it tells you how Zuckerberg over the years had many opportunities to sell Facebook. And he didn't, and why he didn't. Let's see if I can get
I'm here to tell you that finding your purpose isn't enough. Purpose is that feeling that you are a part of something bigger than yourself, that you are needed, and that you have something better ahead to work for. purpose is what creates true happiness. I remember that night I launched Facebook from that little dorm in Kirkland House. I went to Noakes with my friend KX, and I remember telling him clearly that I was excited to help connect the Harvard community, but one day someone would connect the whole world. The thing is, it never even occurred to me that that someone might be us. There were all these great big technology companies with all these resources, and I just assumed one of them would do it. But this idea was so clear to us that all people want to connect. So we just kept working on it, day after day after day. We'll always get criticized for moving too fast because there's always someone who wants to slow you down. Some big companies wanted to buy us. I didn't want to sell. I wanted to see if we could connect more people. Nearly everyone else wanted to sell. Without a sense of higher purpose, this was their startup dream come true, and it tore our company apart. Now, years later, I understand that that is how things work when there's no sense of higher purpose. So it's up to all of us to create it so we can all keep moving forward together. The challenge for our generation is to create a world where everyone has a sense of purpose.
Hear what he says? I knew somebody would connect up the world, and I always assumed it would be one of the big tech companies. Who would have imagined it would be us from a college dorm? So when you come and tell me that somebody is going to reimagine banking, but maybe it'll be JP Morgan or Citi or one of the big boys, why would it have to be? Why could it not be us? And if you believe that this sense of purpose and the sense of what we are trying to do and achieve is really important to us, then we can achieve it. But the question we must ask ourselves every day, every single moment, is this question: are we truly living out our purpose? This idea of making banking joyful, this idea of enabling customers to live their lives more, to bank less, this idea of reimagining banking, are we living this out yet, or do we need to do a lot more? And that's the first message I wanted to leave with you today. That I do believe that it is time for us to rededicate ourselves to the idea of making banking joyful, to dedicate ourselves to putting the customer experience first. That is what is going to really make consistent, sustainable, competitive advantage. The idea of reinvigorating red, Raju talked about putting red into the digital world. We have to be able to do that. The idea of reimagining banking. We must make that front and center and consistently part of our mission. But that was only the first thing I wanted to say. The second message, I'm going to go back to the story. So I said, once upon a time, we set out on a mission. And that mission we set out on was sort of like a mission to scale the summit of Mount Everest. That one's Mount Everest. So you know how people scale Mount Everest? It's not easy. The Mount Everest climb is the most challenging climb in all of mountaineering. So people get right there, in base camp. Base camp is 17,600 feet. It's cold as hell. In the spring season, when people start the climbing season, there's some 300 people congregated on base camp. They're climbers, but they're Sherpas, they're scientists, they're a whole bunch of different people. And they're all milling around because they've got to prepare themselves for the first step. You've got to go and attempt Mount Everest in 5 stages. The first stage you do is you get up there. It's called Camp 1 at 19,900 feet. And getting up from base camp to Camp 1 is actually one of the hardest parts of the Everest climb. Because you go across a whole area called the Khumbu Ice Falls. The Khumbu Ice Falls are shifting crevasses. There's falling ice. The pinnacles that drop on you, the constant avalanches. Perhaps more people lose their lives in that first stage, the Khumbu Ice Falls, than anywhere else on the Mount Everest climb. When I look back at our journey, I really think of getting to stage 1 as something that we did by 2014, Camp 1. When we were recognized as Asia's safest, as Asia's best It took us 4-5 years to get there. We laid the groundwork. We went through. And by the way, a lot of mountaineers, they do this several times to acclimatize their body. And so we took several passes at it. We spent a lot of time in 4-5 years doing and redoing things. But by 2014, 2015, I thought we were at Camp 1. The second thing you do when you do Mount Everest is you go from Camp 1 to 21,000 feet. When you get to 21,000 feet, Camp 2, you actually go through an area called the Western Cone. The Western Cone is actually, counterintuitively, the biggest challenge on this part of the climb is the heat. And it's the heat because it's a strange valley, it's unprotected, and the harsh sun, unprotected, beats down on you. It's hard to breathe in that hot. But for me, I thought that by 2016, when we were voted the world's best digital bank, that to me was getting to Camp 2. It's not easy. It's intense. And I went to London to receive that award, and I had the rest of the banks sitting at me around the table. And Euromoney said that after a lot of research, we've decided to name DBS best bank in the world. I really felt that was a milestone. That was Camp 2. And then from Camp 2, you get up to 24,500 feet, Camp 3. Now this climb is something called the Lhotse Wall. It's an almost vertical wall of ice and rock. And to get up this wall, you've got to use hammers and ropes and pull yourself together and go up this wall. Early last year, when we started getting global peer recognition, I really felt that was yet another milestone. The editors at Euromoney had told me this idea about competitor advocacy. And they said that in their research, when other banks start talking about someone, you know you've reached somewhere, because banks are very, very sparing with their appreciation of another bank. And so when by the middle of last year, I started having people like McKinsey, like Bain, like consultants, magazine people, research analysts, come and start telling me banks are talking about you. I was walking on the streets of New York and Dominic Barton of McKinsey waved at me across the street and said, you guys must be doing something special. I was in Canada and 2 of the Canadian banks asked me, what is DBS doing? By the middle of last year, I had Bank Itaú asked to come and see us. Sushan knows, they came and met us. I had Bank of Chile Islands want to come and meet us. I had invitations from the board of Commonwealth Bank, the board of Westpac, wanting to come and get the whole board to come and talk to us. I had a request from BBVA. I had a request from banks around the world. It just seemed to me we'd hit Camp 3. We are really beginning to get global recognition. When you go from Camp 3 to Camp 4 is right up above the oxygen zone. It's called the death zone. And to get up to the death zone, this is the start of your final summit push. This is equally hard to get up. You've got to be able to climb and get through a huge climb to get to Camp 4. And to me, by the end of last year, in some strange ways, I thought we'd got to that death zone. The market cap is not that important. It is important for one main reason. I think you start hitting the global leagues. You start hitting the global leagues because if you look at the categorization of banks, when you start getting to that level, you start getting into the big boys, away from the medium-sized banks. When we break into the top 40 in the world, then you know you started getting into the global league. And when Euromoney in its December report published this report card of 25 banks in the world, and they put DBS in the report card, I told you before, we're the second smallest bank in the report card, but they put us in there. One of only 2 or 3 Asian banks along with ICBC and the giants. Then you know you're beginning to get to a different league. Right up there on Camp 4. The summit, 29,029 feet. And this climb from Camp 4 to the summit, that is the toughest part of the Everest climb. It's tough because, first of all, it's very windy. It's tough because weather changes. The rule on the last summit push, you have to leave camp by 11 at night because you want to do the climb, turn around, and get back before noon. Because if you're caught on the slope after noon, it's likely to be curtains because the weather changes, the storm clouds come, it's like thunder like today and lightning. So it's very arduous. When you go up, you got to first go up to a place called the balcony. A balcony is a platform where you can rest a little bit. From there, you carry on till you get to the last bit, which is called the Hillary step. And the Hillary step, again, you use ropes and you can only go up one at a time. So this is the most arduous of all climbs. Remember, there's no oxygen. You get disoriented. And you're breathing and gasping. It's not an easy climb to do. It needs unwavering focus. It needs courage. It needs tremendous resilience to make the final summit push. And most of all, it needs a lot of teamwork. Nobody tries Mount Everest alone. Everybody tries Mount Everest in a team because you need a team to get up there. You need teams for a lot of different things. You need teams in our work. Most of all, you need teams in professional sports. I wanted to show you another clip. It's a clip which is one of the best clips I've seen. It's Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday talking about this idea of team and teamwork. You need to try and get this to work.
I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes to the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today. And either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Hell yeah.
They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. That's football, guys. That's all it is. Now, what are you gonna do?
So that's where we are. We have 2 years, 2018, we said 2020, we have 2 years. We have 2 years for what I really think of as this final assault. And it all comes down to now. It all comes down to today. And so the question for each one of us, the question for all of you, for 2 years. So what do you say? Can we do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yesterday, the MEs talked to us. They said we're an aging bank. They said we're an average of 36 years. Remember that? But we're an aging bank. But I'm going to tell you, we have tenacity, we have temperament, we have teamwork, we have track record. You think we can do it?
Yeah.
Peter said this quotation from William Shakespeare, right? What did he say? It's not in our stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. So it is in ourselves to hold our destiny. You think we can do it?
Yeah.
I think we can do it too. I think we can do it because that is our destiny.
Yes.
I think we can do it. Can you play the video, please?
Heroes welcome would be waiting for me, where the crowds will cheer when they see my face, and a voice keeps saying, this is where I'm meant to be. I'll be there someday. I can go the distance. I will find my way. If I can be strong, I know every mile will be worth my while. When I go the distance, I'll be right where I belong. Embrace my fate. Oh, that road may wander will lead me to you, and the 1,000 years would be worth the wait. It might take a lifetime, but somehow I'll see it through, and I won't look back. I can go the distance, and I'll stay on track. No one is set to defeat. Exit uphill slow, but I won't lose hope. Till I go the distance, and my journey is complete.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you.